Hey people, today we're going to be reading Chapter 13 of I Survived the Bombing of Pearl Harbor, 1941, by Lauren Tarshis. Chapter 13, December 9th, 1941, 9 a.m. It was 2 long days before Amma and Danny left Hickam. The first thing Danny did was change his clothes. The next thing he did was sprint up to the Pseudo's house. Aki ran to him. Danny had brought him a present. One of the airmen had given Danny his wings. Danny clipped a gold pin onto Aki's shirt. "Mama!" Aki shrieked. "Look!" Mrs. Pseudo stepped away from her clothesline. She smiled at Danny and hugged him. But Danny noticed her red and swollen eyes. A feeling of dread came over Danny. He saw no sign of Mr. Pseudo. Mrs. Pseudo said that Mrs. Pseudo had Danny sit down at a little table where they'd had lunch just a few days ago. She sent Aki inside of the house to get his toy trains, and she told Danny what had happened. Somehow, Mr. Pseudo had made it from home to the fishing night after the attack, but the next day the police had come to the house. They were searching all the houses of the Japanese people in Hawaii. Mrs. Pseudo looked down. They were looking for spies. "Spies?" Danny said. "They said that the local Japanese here were helping with the attack. They said that if they could search our home, and of course she said yes, because there's nothing here we have to hide." Mrs. Pseudo pushed her lips together and took a ragged breath. But they did find something. Something they said proved Aki's father was helping the Japanese. The sketchbook with all of his drawings of ships and planes. They took it, and they took my husband to jail. Danny tried to understand what Mrs. Pseudo was saying. "What's wrong with drawing the ships and planes?" Danny said. They said he had given information to the Japanese about, the ships, what kind of ships were in the harbor and what kind of planes we had. They said he helped them plan the attack. "But didn't you tell them that's not true?" "Of course we did, Danny. My husband has lived in Hawaii his whole life. He loves America. This attack enraged him. That night he came home from the fishing village. He said he wanted to join the Navy, the U.S. Navy, and fight the people who did this to our beautiful Hawaii." "What did you tell him that?" "Of course," Mrs. Pseudo said, "but they didn't listen. I heard that they arrested all the other Japanese people. There's a rumor that they're going to put all the Japanese people in American jail." Danny couldn't believe it. Danny couldn't believe that was true. Mrs. Mills had always said that America was the land of the free. Just then, Aki came running out the door with his toy train. "Danny, play!" he said. Mrs. Pseudo patted Danny's head and got up to finish the laundry. Probably the best thing he could do for Mrs. Pseudo was to keep Aki busy. So he also brought Aki into the house, and they played the entire afternoon. All that afternoon, Danny thought about Mrs. Pseudo. Was there any way he could help? Nothing came to him. Until later that night, when he was lying in bed, Danny realized that there was one person who might be able to do something. And the next morning, he went to the post office and sent a telegram to Earl Gaskey. There was no way of knowing whether Earl had anything to do with Mr. Pseudo's release from jail a week later. But Danny knew Mr. Pseudo was back, because he heard a shriek from the hill. "Papa!" An hour later, Aki had dragged Mr. Pseudo down to meet Danny. Of course, Danny didn't mention Mr. Pseudo, that he had a gangster help free him from prison. Who knew if the telegram had ever reached Earl? And if it had, who knew if Earl had even cared? But right now, there wasn't much Danny could believe in, so he decided to believe in Earl.